Thrilled to welcome Symphony 3 to the Local Government News Roundup family. If you're a local council, you know how challenging it can be to manage data across all your different systems. That's where Symphony 3 comes in. They've developed Smart Glue, a platform that integrates over 55 council systems, automating data flow without the need for manual work. It turns confusion into simplicity. With Smart Glue, councils save time, reduce errors and empower staff to focus on what really matters. Their clients see a real difference, up to 20% boost in productivity, with savings of over $30,000 per integration every year. Symphony 3 helps councils work smarter, faster and more efficiently, all while better supporting the communities they serve. Threats of violence push a council meeting online. New alliances to tackle common issues. MAV board election results are in. 6 New South Wales councils given an ultimatum on development assessment times. The councillors pushing for spending reviews at their councils. Attention turns to clean-up across cyclone-impacted communities. Plus, a new CEO appointment, a Lord Mayor elected to Parliament, and a unanimous vote of no confidence in an embattled US Mayor. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy, back with more from the Local Government News Roundup. It's Wednesday, the 12th of March. Also today, Liz Joldeski from Mainstreet Australia joins me to talk about the link between placemaking and community safety. Our podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. A proposed name change to a popular shopping strip in central Dandenong has become the centre of a heated debate between different ethnic groups from Afghanistan and has forced the council's latest meeting online out of safety concerns. Hazara community members have petitioned to rename the Afghan Bazaar to Little Bamiyan, arguing that the current name is culturally insensitive. However, the proposal has sparked strong reactions from Pashtun and Tajik community members. The situation has become so volatile that Greater Dandenong Council was reportedly considering cancelling this week's council meeting altogether on security grounds. Police were consulted after threats of violence emerged on social media, including from people outside of Greater Dandenong. That all ultimately led to a decision to move the Tuesday night meeting online, with public questions read on behalf of community members by Acting CEO Sanjay Manavasagasavam. Councillor Jennifer Anderson of Macedon Ranges Shire has been re-elected as President of the MAV this week. In results declared yesterday, Councillor Anderson will be joined on the new MAV board by some of the state's most experienced mayors and councillors. They include Councillor Rochelle Halstead of Bass Coast Shire, Michael Goebel of Wodonga City, Ruth Gastrain of Corangamite, Lee Zhang from Glen Ira, Les McPhee from Swan Hill, Karen Sherry of Hume, Chris Bolam at Frankston, Shannon Maguire of Wyndham and Councillor Joe Armstrong from Ararat Rural City. An alliance of outer metropolitan councils is putting the spotlight on the lack of essential community facilities like swimming pools and libraries while they deal with rapid population growth. The Outer Melbourne Councils Group says local councils are unable to fund the facilities independently. It's calling for a fairer funding split between federal, state and local governments to ensure the vital facilities are built to meet growing community needs. 5 councils in the northwest of the state have formed an alliance to deal with impacts on their communities from transmission lines, renewable energy and mining. Councillors and CEOs from Buloke, Gannawarra, Loddon, Northern Grampians and Yarriambiack met in Charlton last week to discuss the common issues across council borders. Buloke Shire Mayor Alan Getley said concerns include the impact on the acute housing shortage, a lack of social licence that has alienated many farmers and other detrimental impacts. Moorabool Shire has welcomed the federal government's announcement of a $1.1 billion investment for upgrades to the Western Freeway, including improvements between Melton and Caroline Springs and $100 million for the Brewery Tap Road intersection in Warrenheip. While the upgrades are not directly within Moorabool Shire, Mayor Councillor Paul Tatchell said they are critical improvements to the road network connecting its residents to Melbourne and Ballarat, especially considering the area's expected population growth. In further news on the upgrades, the opposition has pledged to deliver on the $1 billion commitment if elected in this year's federal election, an announcement that has been welcomed by Melton City Council. And Maribyrnong City Council is conducting a 10-year review of its bylaws and proposing a number of changes that include reducing the number of pets allowed per property, requiring permits for private waste collection and new regulations for vehicle storage on council land. The current general purpose local law contains 56 bylaws focusing on 4 main areas: animal management, neighbourhood appeal, waste disposal and activities on council managed land and roads. The council is seeking community input on the proposed changes before drafting a new general purpose local law which will be available for public comment mid-year. More council briefs. Baw Baw Shire's Pet Expo is back next month in Warragul. The free community event on the 6th of April will feature market stalls, pet agility activities, wildlife displays and competitions. Mayor Danny Goss said the expo is a popular event and an opportunity to celebrate our pets and learn how to better care for them. Nillumbik Shire has helped facilitate the purchase of a new emergency response vehicle for the Vic SES Nillumbik unit. The specially equipped vehicle will assist in storm damage response and land-based swift water rescues, ensuring members have the tools they need to keep the community safe. And Colac Otway Shire has secured $1.3 million in federal government funding for Colac's Blue Water Leisure Centre to replace its gas heating systems with electric alternatives. With matched funding from the council, the electrification project will reduce its overall emissions by nearly 25%. This is the Local Government News Roundup for Wednesday the 12th of March. If you're new to the podcast, we come to you 3 times a week generally with the latest news from across the sector in Victoria, around Australia and overseas. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. Don't forget to check out VLGA Connect, the flagship YouTube program from the VLGA, which is also available as a podcast. There's a special edition available right now on last week's launch of the Victorian Councillor Census. And thanks for the support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. 6 New South Wales councils have been put on notice by the Planning Minister, Paul Scully, according to the Daily Telegraph. He's demanding they speed up their development application processing times or risk losing their assessment powers. The councils, including Georges River, Sutherland Shire, Willoughby and North Sydney, along with regional councils Wingecarribee and Queanbeyan-Pallarang, have been given 3 months to improve their performance. While most councils are expected to process DAs within 115 days, some are taking nearly twice that long. Georges River Council currently has the longest wait times at 223 days. The councils have been given 28 days to submit action plans for improvement. Councillors at Ku-ring-gai Council are set to vote next week on bringing in external auditors amid scrutiny over its spending practices, according to the Sydney Morning Herald. The move comes after the council recently spent $20,000 on a retreat at the Hydro Majestic Hotel in the Blue Mountains, and as neighbouring councils face community backlash over proposed rate increases. Councillor Matthew Devlin, who is co-sponsoring the motion, says the audit would ensure the council has tightened its belt before considering any rate increases. Mayor Christine Kay has indicated she won't support the motion in its current form. And Albury City Council has supported a move from its Deputy Mayor Jess Callaghan for a comprehensive independent budget review that could cost up to $120,000. The Border Mail reported that the review will analyse various financial aspects of the council, including revenue, expenditure and strategic goals. The motion was passed in a 6-3 vote. Later in the same meeting, there was a contentious debate on a redevelopment of the Lavington Swim Centre, which could cost as much as $45 million. The proposals will be put out for community comment before any further steps are determined by the council. At Shell Harbour, the Illawarra Mercury has reported this week that Mayor Chris Homer declined to pursue an external investigation into allegations about the conduct of its CEO Mike Archer at a staff Christmas party. It's understood an internal council report recommended an independent review of the claims of inappropriate behaviour between Mr Archer and a junior staff member at the December function. Multiple staff members were interviewed as part of a preliminary assessment, and Mayor Homer is reported to have resolved the issue by alternative means and declared the matter finalised, noting that the testimonies about what had occurred varied widely. Yass Valley Council has announced the appointment of experienced Administrator Gayleen Burley as its new Chief Executive Officer. Ms Burley, who brings extensive experience from roles across northern New South Wales, including Glen Innes, Severn and Port Macquarie Hastings councils, will take up the position in mid-April on a 5-year contract. Mayor Jasmine Jones says the council was particularly impressed by Ms Burley's commercial expertise and understanding of the region's heritage and economic potential. The new CEO will replace Acting Chief Executive Julie Costa, who's led the council since November. Willoughby City Council is implementing a 6-month trial that moves public and open forums to 1 week before council meetings. It says the aim is to increase community participation and improve decision-making processes. The new format allows residents to register up to 2 business days before forums, which can be attended either in person or online, with the first forum under the new system scheduled for the 17th of March. And the New South Wales Government has appointed 3 new commissioners to the Local Government Grants Commission. They include former ALGA President Linda Scott as chairperson, along with Deputy Chair Brett Whitworth from the Office of Local Government and former Mayor of Orange Jason Hamling. They join Leanne Barnes, former GM of Bega Valley Shire, whose term on the commission has been renewed. On to our Queensland report. Brisbane's Lord Mayor is mobilising a ute army for the clean-up from ex-tropical cyclone Alfred. 7 News and other media outlets have reported Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner's call for people to use their utility vehicles and work with their neighbours to help clean up fallen trees and branches. Free green waste tipping sites have been established around the city. Toowoomba Mayor Jeff McDonald has called for patience as the clean-up got underway there. The storm caused tree damage, localised flooding and lengthy power outages across the council area, and he said staff are working diligently through service requests with tasks prioritised based on need. Queensland's Local Government Minister Anne Lay announced the activation of hardship assistance grants for affected residents in Redland, Gold Coast and Logan City Council areas after the storm. The grants are to cover emergency costs, replacement of damaged household goods and the reconnection of services. And the federal government has activated a disaster recovery allowance, offering up to 13 weeks of income support for eligible workers and sole traders in 14 Queensland and 17 New South Wales local government areas. Continuing in brief, in Tweed Shire there'll be a free residential curbside collection for yard and tree debris. Thanks to confirmed disaster recovery funding from federal and state governments, the residential clean-up will start early next week and be completed suburb by suburb. The $52 million Hunter Sports Centre expansion in Lake Macquarie has opened, featuring a world-class athletics facility and Australia's first trampoline centre of excellence. The expanded facility will host the University of Newcastle's first permanent presence in Lake Macquarie. And Moree Plains Council has placed its draft Reconciliation Action Plan out for consultation. It's inviting Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal community members to have their say on meaningful actions to advance reconciliation. As councils across the country deal with the challenges from ageing pool infrastructure, Georgetown Council in Tasmania is throwing open the doors of its local swimming pool with free admission for the rest of March, ahead of a controversial redevelopment project. The Examiner reported that 3 residents were removed from a recent council meeting after claiming they weren't properly consulted on the proposal. The new indoor facility is planned to replace the 40-year-old pool with the aim of providing year-round swim and pool play opportunities. In South Australia, a projected deficit at Adelaide Hills Council has nearly doubled from $1.7 million to $3 million, according to a report from the Adelaide Advertiser. Rising legal costs are a significant factor, with legal expenses in the governance area alone expected to hit $400,000. The growing deficit comes amid ongoing turmoil at the council following a series of controversies, including allegations of staff bullying and a dramatic incident where police were called to remove the mayor's husband from a council meeting. Council CEO Greg Georgopoulos maintains the council's overall financial position remains strong. In Perth, the Lord Mayor Basil Zemplis is set to take a seat in the Western Australian Parliament after winning the seat of Churchlands for the Liberal Party. ABC News reported the vote was tighter than many expected, despite it being the government's most marginal electorate. Lord Mayor Zemplis has been on a leave of absence while campaigning in the lead-up to last Saturday's election. And the controversial $217 million Burswood Park motorsport circuit looks set to proceed following Labor's victory in the state election. Premier Roger Cook says his government has a clear mandate to develop the street circuit and entertainment precinct, despite strong local opposition. Perth Now reported that Victoria Park Mayor Karen Vernon and Wanneroo Mayor Linda Aitken are pushing for alternatives, suggesting upgrades to the existing Wanneroo Raceway instead of developing Burswood's parklands. Environmental concerns include potential impacts on local wetlands and wildlife. A progress report on the development is expected in May. There's been a lot of talk about community safety lately. A lot of councils are being, lobbied by communities to do more to make them feel safe in their communities. We've even seen some demonstrations, a march in Port Phillip very recently. My guest today is from Mainstreet Australia, an organisation that works with the high street, the town centres, to work on things like this and make them more vibrant, successful places. The Executive Officer is Liz Joldeski. Hello, Liz. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Chris. Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Have I summed up what your organisation's all about sufficiently there, or do you want to add something?
Yes, you have actually. Look, we are the peak body for main streets, town centres and high streets all around Australia. So we work with local trader groups and business associations in particular, and other stakeholders to help small businesses on main streets to look at growing, doing better, and to look at bringing more people into town centres and into our places to enjoy them, and to gather there more regularly.
And it seems to me, and there's probably some uninitiated listening, but I've certainly noticed quite a few people who work in local government also involved with your organisation.
Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah, so we're run by a committee, our board. We have very diverse representation. So we do have some local council representatives, but essentially our key members and our key cohort and our mission and the reason why we exist is to support business associations and trader groups. So these are the non-profit organisations that are set up in lots of town centres and cities, in metro and regional towns all around Australia. And they're set up with the mission of better managing the coordination of how our precincts and our town centres are run. So our role and our mission is to support those trader groups to do their job better. But and I guess the local council connection, absolutely, it is vital. They are a key partner, and they're also a key supporter and a key driver of that activity of placemaking in their local council areas.
Well, it seems to me you're helping councils meet one of the aims that they have in their community health and wellbeing objectives that they all set. And I noticed, this is what caught my eye and why I reached out to have a chat. I noticed a recent event in Sydney where you came together and talked about placemaking and the importance of that. Can you just outline a bit about what was featured at that session?
Yeah, for sure. So there was a conference, recently just held in Sydney, and Mainstreet partnered with City Nation Place. It was, a fantastic 2 days. Basically, we heard a lot from international and national leaders in the placemaking space. And I think some of the key takeaways, look, the key message was definitely all about collaboration and partnerships. Lots of discussion around business improvement districts and best practice case studies in that sort of area.
Yeah.
So I know you would absolutely be familiar with that as a concept. But essentially what that is a model for the coordination and the management of main streets and town centres. And there's around 2,500 of these all around the world. And they started off in Canada, I believe, in the early 2000s. So we had great presentations from the city of Vancouver talking about the importance of data, lots of reflections and discussion on the importance of placemaking, not just from a beautification perspective. It's not just about fairy lights and
Yeah, yeah.
streetscaping, but what placemaking really is about. It's about investing in safety and in safer and more prosperous communities. So that was certainly a key theme that came out of the conference.
I think it's terrific how more and more these days we see these opportunities to share perspectives that are global in nature, people from around the world coming together, proving that we're not alone in dealing with some of the challenges that we're dealing with here in
Mm.
Australia. Just before we get on to the safety element, I noticed one of the key takeaways that was printed up from that event was about place branding not being a side project. I just want to quote this: "It's a core driver of economic growth. We need better education to help government officials understand that place branding and placemaking aren't cost centres." Which level of government do you think that comment is aimed at?
Oh yeah, look, that's a great question. So my view on that is that I believe it's all levels of government, right? We're talking about placemaking is it's about partnerships, and it's about every level of government working more effectively together to improve the safety, the economic growth, and as you referred to improve the enjoyment that local residents get from their areas and their places and their towns. So I think obviously local councils have a very vested interest in main streets and the revitalisation of them and place branding, but certainly state governments as well. From a broader, tourism and destination marketing perspective, they also have a role to play. And I think even, federal government, it's great to see the federal government is doing a lot more directly in the placemaking and the precinct development,
Mm.
from a policy perspective as well. So I think it's definitely a joint, a joint responsibility. But I'd say that local council being at the front face and being so connected to community probably should have the key role from an activation and revitalisation perspective.
Yes. So I want to get to this link between placemaking and community safety. As I mentioned at the outset, we've seen some pretty high-profile issues of late. It plays out on the news quite often, and a lot of it happens in these economic town centres, if I can put it that way. I
Mm.
mentioned the Port Phillip example. There was a community march and people wanting more to be done, and I think, to be fair, not just pointing the finger at their local council, but wanting more to be done to make these places safe. What's the Mainstreet Australia view of how that can happen?
Yeah, for sure. So, look, we've actually looked into this issue quite closely just recently, Chris, and I can safely say that it is the number one issue that's being raised with us from our members and a lot of our stakeholders. So, we did a survey towards the end of last year with our network and our membership on, how can we better address the rise in antisocial behaviour and criminal activity on our main streets. So the survey found around 80% of the respondents said that they've seen an increase in antisocial behaviour on main streets and in their local precincts over the past 12 months. And vandalism and drug and alcohol use and aggressive behaviour were identified as the most prevalent issues. And around 50%, so nearly half, actually said that they've reported daily occurrences of this behaviour.
Right.
So we have so it's obviously it's happening, as you said, and with this recent example in Port Phillip, it's happening everywhere, not just in Port Phillip. It's happening across the board in Victoria, in regional and metro towns. Every other day we see another, tobacco war, firebombing.
Mm.
So there's lots of this sort of activity, and it is definitely having an impact on not just the people that frequent our local town centres and main streets. So there is that fear element that is creeping into people's the perceptions of safety on our main street. That's absolutely a concern. But the concern that we've got at Mainstreet Australia and what we want to address is the safety for the employees and the small businesses as well, who are there all day, 24/7 on our main streets. So what we're looking at, to your question, Chris, and what we feel is needed is definitely we need to see more police presence and, on our main streets. We definitely need better collaboration with all other stakeholders. So that does mean working closely with, local councils and I guess just from an advocacy perspective as well, talking to your local MP. If there is an incident on your main street, we say, tell your police about it, because then it has every chance of becoming a hotspot, and then you will get more, more focus and, more activity from a police presence perspective. We're also just looking at how we can develop, greater local collaboration around community safety initiatives. And of course, longer term, and there is a greater need for legislative reforms and, potentially better support from government, that's the state government, for support programs. Right. Not just to, to also look at small businesses from their mental health perspective, because they are, it's aggression and it's all of that other behaviour that they're experiencing themselves. So we need to look at ways to better support the small businesses and their employees on main streets.
Now, I know this issue, being quite topical at the moment, is of concern to many, and you're bringing people together, I think, a session this week as part of a series of chats about how to tackle these safety issues.
That's right, Chris. Yes, we're having a session actually this Thursday, the 13th. It's our first in our Cafe Chat series, and we're inviting Vic Police representatives to come and chat with business, trader and business association representatives to talk to them about this issue and what they can do to help small businesses on main streets to better improve, safety. To address all of those concerns around the rise in antisocial behaviour. So, please come along. If anyone wants any information, they can go to mainstreetaustralia.org.au. It's for members, but non-members can pay to come along. And, you'll be able to have an intimate chat with the Vic police representatives. And we'll also be offering the opportunity for other business associations and trader groups to actually run these community safety and main street safety sessions within their own areas. So there's an opportunity to do that if you haven't already done it. Bring your small businesses together and train them and educate them on what they can do to improve their own physical safety, and even to talk about, as I said earlier, the mental health and, the impacts that is having on them and the running of their businesses.
Excellent initiative. I get the sense it's one of a series that is coming. This one's in Northcote, but you're planning to run these in other locations as well?
Correct. We will be running, other sessions throughout the year.
Terrific, Liz. Thank you for telling us about that. I appreciate you coming on the Roundup.
Thank you so much, Chris. Great to be with you.
Let's check out some overseas stories to round out this episode. In Everett, Massachusetts in the States, tensions are continuing to rise at City Hall as the City Council has now delivered a unanimous vote of no confidence against Mayor Carlo DiMaria. The dramatic 9-0 vote comes in the wake of a state watchdog investigation that found the mayor was overpaid by $180,000 in longevity bonuses, and its demand last week that he repay the money. NBC Boston reported that Mayor DiMaria has dismissed the no-confidence vote as political theatrics, and he's defending his leadership record. In a dramatic reversal, the Woodland Park City Council in Colorado has unanimously voted to repeal a 1.09% city sales tax that provides over $3 million annually to local schools. The decision comes just days after the council voted to maintain the tax. News 5 Southern Colorado reported that the sudden change was triggered by controversy over the school district's drafted resolution to sell a charter school building. Council members viewed the terms of the sale as an attempt to lock in the sales tax for 30 years. The impact was immediate, with council member Terry Baldwin resigning following the vote. She said being on the council wasn't worth it and that she was not a politician. School officials warned the move could affect teacher salaries, with the district's board president calling the council's action way out of line. In the UK, councils in England and Wales will get greater power to seize land for affordable housing through compulsory purchase orders without requiring central government approval or considering hope value in property prices. The Guardian reported that the changes are in new legislation being introduced by the Labor government as part of a broader plan to deliver 1.5 million new homes and boost affordable housing. Reports have also emerged this week that legislative changes will give councils the power to set their own planning fees. Nearly 400 bin workers in Birmingham have begun an indefinite strike, leaving over 1 million residents facing potential disruption to their waste collection services. The Guardian reported that the all-out strike, which began at 6 a.m. Tuesday, follows months of intermittent industrial action. Unite union members are protesting the council's decision to scrap certain roles, which they claim could result in significant pay cuts for some workers. Birmingham City Council has managed to deploy 90 agency crews, less than half the usual number, to maintain some collection services. It says the unions are holding residents hostage, while Unite's representatives insist they're open to negotiations. Toronto's taxi companies are taking a stand in the Buy Local debate, urging the City Council to include them in Toronto's new Buy Local, Buy Canadian campaign. CBC News reported that the companies have penned a joint letter to the Council, arguing that local ride services deserve priority over US-based competitors. The companies are pushing for bold measures, including a potential ban on US-based ride-hailing apps on city property. Also from CBC News, the City of Calgary has unveiled plans for 3 new residential developments and has completed 2 office-to-residential conversions that will bring over 1,100 new housing units to the downtown West End. The initiatives are supported by $20 million in city investment, leveraging $350 million from the private sector, and they're part of a larger downtown revitalisation strategy aimed at addressing high vacancy rates. And in New Zealand, the government has launched a city and regional deals initiative where councils can submit proposals for up to 5 priority infrastructure projects to drive economic growth. Inside Government reported that the process is at assessment stage after the close of submissions last month. The government aims to have the first deal concluded by the end of the year and 3 in place by October 2026. The New Zealand Herald reports on an increasing number of incidents of abuse and threatening behaviour from members of the public towards Wanganui District Council, particularly from so-called sovereign citizen groups. Chief Executive David Langford told the Wanganui Chronicle he'd been the subject of a kidnapping threat in an email demanding he leave his office and place himself under house arrest. The situation has led to enhanced security measures and staff training for de-escalation. And Wellington City Council is under pressure to improve waterfront safety following a coroner's findings into a 2021 drowning death. Radio New Zealand reported that coroner Catherine Gregg has found inadequate safety measures were in place when 30-year-old Sandy Calkin fell into Wellington Harbour after a night out. The coroner's report reveals the council was aware of safety issues but had not acted on previous recommendations, prioritising aesthetic considerations over public safety. 7 people have died after falling into the harbour since 2006, with another 17 surviving similar incidents. Mayor Tory Whanau has accepted the findings, with the council now proposing to spend more than $11 million on permanent safety barriers. And that's the podcast for today, Wednesday the 12th of March, edition number 438, brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. If you have comments or feedback on this episode or story tips for future episodes, you can email me at lgweeklynews@gmail.com. And more details on this episode, including story links, can be found at lgnewsroundup.com. Thank you to those who help make the podcast possible by supporting us through a monthly subscription. Support starts at $3 per month, less than $5 Australian, and you can cancel your subscription at any time. Details on the website or in your podcast player. The Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thank you for listening, and bye for now. A councillor's commitment to community doesn't stop when their time as an elected representative ends. In recognition of this and to strengthen its ongoing support for former councillors, the VLGA has launched an alumni program open to anyone who has held an elected position in local government. By becoming a VLGA alumnus, former councillors will have access to VLGA programs and special alumni networking events, as well as the opportunity to participate in forums and share key learnings and insights to inform sector advocacy. You'll be kept up to date on local government news and be able to participate in VLGA events and professional development opportunities at a special VLGA alumni member rate. To find out more about this exciting opportunity, visit www.vlga.org.au.